Welcome back once again to Fantasy Hockey Picks and Bets here on the Mayo Media Network. My name is Cecil Peters and I am going to go through each of the 9 games on tonight's slate with you guys here today. It is finally March, Tuesday, March 1st. We got 9 games on the ice. There have been a few comments lately on the YouTube videos about adding some more player shot props and player goal props to each video, so I'm going to be sure to mention my favorite player shot and goal prop for each game as we go through the entire slate here. This is also proof that leaving comments on the video is helpful, so please comment if you are on YouTube with anything you would like to see more or less of in these preview videos going forward. And of course, as per Mayo Media Network policy, hammer down on that like button. We got 9 games tonight, so we're going to get right into them. The first game is in Tampa Bay. We got the Ottawa Senators plus 275 at Tampa Bay. The Bolts are minus 330 at home. And honestly, there probably should be more. We have seen a few times this year where there have been minus 400 favorites. In recent weeks, the last couple games, we have seen some of these underdogs win games. Montreal Canadiens and Columbus Blue Jackets beating the Maple Leafs were 2 examples of that recently. But this is the Tampa Bay Lightning we're talking about. It's not the Toronto Maple Leafs. We don't have the questions in that like we did with Toronto. Ottawa Senators also just aren't a very good team. They're dealing with a nasty flu bug that is running through the team right now. Thomas Chabot was one guy who missed the last game with this bug. He says that he lost 13 pounds over 24 hours. And I know that from all media reports, it sounds like it's kind of running through the locker room right now. So I don't know which players are dealing with this and which players are not, but I do know that the Ottawa Senators are not expecting to have everybody healthy and available for this game. So Tampa Bay coming in after a win in the outdoor game in Nashville. They have the division lead firmly in their sights right now. Florida kind of seem to have a firm grasp on the top of the division. They've lost a few games in a row now, so the division lead is back on the table. Tampa Bay is going to make a run for it. They have the depth. They have the experience for it. They're not going to take the Senators lightly. I do think Andrei Vasilevsky will get the start here. Tampa Bay often plays backup Brian Elliott in these games against weaker opponents, but they've got a day off before this game. They have a day off after this game, and they have a back-to-back set coming up later on this week, including a game against Detroit. So I assume that is when Brian Elliott will get his start. So Vasilevsky against the Ottawa Senators. We got Braden Point, who scored a goal on 4 shots against Nashville in that outdoor game. Him and Kucherov looked as about in tuned as they have been all season long. In this easy matchup, he's my pick to go over 2.5 shots on goal, and he is also my pick to score. You get a little bit better odds on him than you do with Nikita Kucherov, but I like both of those guys. Next game of the night is in Philadelphia. Edmonton Oilers minus 160 on the money line right now. Philadelphia plus 140. Edmonton has been solidly outplayed over their past 3 games. Managed to grab 1 win over the tough Florida-Carolina stretch. Lost to Tampa Bay. They beat the Florida Panthers. Surprisingly enough, in the game that they were outplayed the most, Florida was all over them all game, taking a ton of shots, not allowing a ton of chances. But Edmonton took advantage of Sergei Bobrovsky playing super poorly, and then they ran into a red-hot performance of their own goalie, Mikko Koskinen. He made a ton of saves, got them the win. Not surprisingly, Mike Smith was the goalie of record for their 2 losses. He has been brutal, but they seem to keep wanting to run him out of net. I would assume Koskinen gets the start here, but if it is Mike Smith, I will rush to bet the Flyers. The one thing about the Oilers is they don't need a ton of chances to win games. A couple of good shifts for Leon Draisaitl and or Connor McDavid, especially if it comes on the power play, can result in a couple quick goals. So Carter Hart, who kept the Washington Capitals to 1 goal in their last meeting, is going to need to come back with that same type performance against the Oilers. Philadelphia should be able to pot 3 or 4 here. It's just a matter of if Carter Hart can keep the puck out the other way. Joel Farabee returned last game against Washington in that win for Philadelphia. He looked great back alongside Claude Giroux and Cam Atkinson. That line dominated. I expect the same here today against a bad defensive team. Farabee is my guy to score in this game. You'll get better odds on him than the other 2, and Giroux for over 2.5 shots. You should be able to find that around minus 125. Not betting on the winner of this game, unless, of course, Mike Smith is in net, in which case I will bet on the Flyers. Next game is in Columbus. We got the New Jersey Devils coming in on the second half of a back-to-back. They're slight underdogs, plus 140 here against the Jackets. Hard to trust New Jersey with their goaltending lately. It has been brutal. Columbus has been kind of the opposite. Goaltending has really saved them lately. Jean-Francois Berube played really well while Merzlikins was injured. Merzlikins is back. Played decently in a loss to Pittsburgh. They did end up losing 3-2, but they played the Penguins really well in that game. The top line's been hot. They've stopped scoring over the last couple games, but Boone Jenner keeps taking a ton of shots. He's my go-to shot prop guy for Columbus right now. It was Patrick Laine for a while. He's kind of cooled off a little bit. As we mentioned all the time with Laine, when he's hot, he's hot. When he's not, he's not. So he hasn't hit the over 2.5 in a couple of games, so we're going to back off of Laine. Play Jenner there. The scoring has been coming from the second line. Oliver Bjorkstrand and Jack Roslovic both scored last game. I think at least one of them scores tonight, and Jack Roslovic has the better odds. He's just gonna come in nicer odds because he has been on the third and fourth line recently. He's recently been bumped up to the second line, so his odds will be a little better than the matchup indicates, not to mention the bad goaltending on the Devils side. So the Blue Jackets win and Roslovic to score are the bets here. Next game is in Detroit. Not going to spend a ton of time on this one. We got the Carolina Hurricanes minus 240. Detroit is plus 195 in this game. Red Wings scored 7 goals in their last game and still didn't manage to win, giving up 10 goals to the Toronto Maple Leafs in that crazy game. I can assure you that the Carolina Hurricanes will not allow 7 goals. They should cruise to an easy victory here, especially against the bad Detroit defense. Andrei Svechnikov is my guy in this game. He's been flying around the ice lately. He looks exceptional, taking a ton of shots. I would prefer to find a 3.5 shots on goal prop here just so we could get plus money, but even at the 2.5, sometimes it's juiced almost to minus 200, but that's almost a lock with him these days. So you're not going to get the best odds on Svechnikov, especially with the matchup, but Svechnikov shots and Svechnikov to score are my 2 leans in this one. Next game of the night is in Minnesota. Calgary just beat this team 7-3 in Calgary a couple nights ago. I think they were minus 160 favorites in this game. Now they come to Minnesota after beating them. The opening line that I'm seeing is the Minnesota Wild minus 115, Calgary minus 105. I do expect that the Calgary will be favored by the time this game starts, but if not, all the more reason to hammer down on the Flames. Beating a team back-to-back in this league is tough, but in this case, I do think Calgary can do it. 2 main reasons are the Wild goaltending, which has been bad. Kaapo Kähkönen and Cam Talbot both struggling lately. When you have 2 average goalies and none of them are at the top of their game, it becomes real tough to win hockey games in this league, hence why Minnesota is on a bit of a losing streak right now. Another problem with Minnesota is the center ice position. They can't seem to find a fit between Matt Zuccarello and Kirill Kaprizov. Ryan Hartman was in that role earlier in the year. He played really well for a bit. He was hot, but he's really cooled off lately. He's not the quality of player those guys need between them. They tried Joel Eriksson there last game. It didn't work, so it looks like they're going back to Hartman in that spot. Honestly, he's probably the best option they have for it right now, which isn't saying a lot about their center depth. Calgary is strong in both of those areas. They got one of the best goalies in the league in Jacob Markstrom. And then their top 3 lines are just consistently playing well together. They found a really good mix with their forward line, so it's nice when you don't have to worry about juggling your lines or trying to find the right fit or trying to find chemistry. They've established that. Tyler Toffoli has come in. He's playing with Sean Monahan and Milan Lucic on the 3rd line. They're playing really well, just adds to the depth of this team. Calgary being on the road here, the line that I really like to look to is the 2nd line. There's not a ton you can say about the 1st line. They're obviously phenomenal. Gaudreau, Tkachuk, and Lindholm have been playing great. When Calgary gets on the road, I really like their 2nd line. They get easier matchups. The Joel Eriksson-Ek line is probably going to match up against Johnny Gaudreau. That's going to free up the Backlund, Coleman, Mangiapane unit. They're probably going to get some ice time against Kaprizov. That's not a very good defensive line, so look to Blake Coleman to score here. You'll get decent odds, and if you can find a shot prop on him as well, he's got 9 shots on 12 attempts in his past 3 games. Generally shoots more on the road. Like I said, they just find their way into easier matchups. So Blake Coleman to score, Blake Coleman shots over if you can find it. If not, Matthew Tkachuk is a good option to go to as well. And of course, the Calgary Flames to win over the Minnesota Wild. Next game on the night, the Montreal Canadiens in Winnipeg. This is just 2 bad teams meeting up. Montreal's plus 205 here, so that's immediately where I look to. Winnipeg minus 245 on the money line. When this line opened, actually, as I was going through these games, Montreal was plus 235. That's quickly moved to plus 205, but I'm still okay with anything over plus 200. Winnipeg did beat the Coyotes in a game that they needed to win, but I'm not going to award you any points for beating the lowly Arizona Coyotes. Defense looked horrible. They let Barrett Hayton score one of the nicest goals of the year, but it really wasn't hard for him. He walked around the entire Jets defense. They basically just let him through. Winnipeg's back home, a game they have to win. Montreal's red hot. I'm going to lead to the Montreal Canadiens simply because of the odds. You're looking for shots. You're looking at Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor on the Jets. You're looking at Brendan Gallagher and Cole Caulfield on the Canadiens. They both have, I think, 11 shots over their past 3 games. You're going to get better odds on Gallagher. Caulfield's kind of the hot name right now. So Gallagher to score, Gallagher and Caulfield shots, and Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor shots. Two bad defensive teams. I do expect a lot of shots in this game. Probably not a ton of offense, though. Next game on the night. Not going to go over this one too much. The Colorado Avalanche minus 310 over the Islanders. Islanders are plus 260 here. Started to play better in the last couple weeks, but they continue their trend of beating teams they should and losing to teams that they should lose to. Colorado is absolutely a team they should lose to, so they probably will. The only reason I'm not betting on the Avs is because of the minus 310 line. I don't like to bet minus 310 against a decent team like the Islanders, especially with how Ilya Sorokin's playing in net, but I don't think that they will be able to score enough to keep up with Colorado. Colorado's red hot at the moment. 5 goals in the past 3 games for Gabriel Landeskog. He's my pick to score in this one to keep the streak going. He's actually got as many shots as McKinnon and Rantanen in the last few games, albeit Nathan McKinnon's played 1 less game, but those guys are often set at 4.5 or 3.5 for the line. You'll usually find 2.5 on Gabriel Landeskog to go over. Other than that, not a ton of action in this game, especially with Matthew Barzal likely out for the Islanders. 2 more games to get through on the West Coast. We got San Jose plus 195 in Vegas. San Jose won another game they had no business winning on Sunday night, beating the Kraken despite getting heavily outshot. James Reimer keeps stopping a ton of shots in net. San Jose is allowing a ton, but not a ton of quality chances. They just haven't played many good opponents lately. He seems to be getting on another hot streak like he was earlier, but I do think that is due to end. Vegas is going to get a lot more high-quality shots on him than the Seattle Kraken. Robin Lehner probably back for Vegas. He got pulled off of IR a couple days ago, so he should be back good to go. Vegas continues to be hammered with injuries. Jack Eichel and Chandler Stevenson playing okay on the first line, but not great. The real line that's carrying Vegas right now, and this is where I'm looking to get props on, is the second line of Jonathan Marchessault, Riley Smith, and William Karlsson. Smith's actually taken the most shots on that line recently, which is weird. Usually it's Marchessault. So either Jonathan Marchessault or Riley Smith to score or to go over their shot prop are my leans here. And I'll take the Vegas Golden Knights to win in regulation. They haven't been very good lately, but San Jose is a horrible team. Vegas should take care of them, no problem. Last game of the night here in Anaheim. 2 teams heading different directions. The Boston Bruins minus 200 against the Ducks, who are reeling. They're plus 170 here. They lost to the Islanders last game. Boston played in LA last night, but I'm not too worried about the back-to-back. It's not a lot of travel. Anaheim to LA is not too bad. Top line of Jake DeBrusk skating with Bergeron and Marchand has been excellent, and Taylor Hall and David Pastrnak on your second line. That's as deadly as a combo as you'll see on a second unit at any time all year. Boston just has too much firepower, and the Ducks just aren't in good form right now. Marchand shooting a ton more with David Pastrnak on the second line. Marchand's kind of become that trigger man on the first line, so I'll happily bet on him to go over 2.5 or 3.5 shots depending on what line is offered. And I do like him to score, but you're going to get better odds on Jake DeBrusk. He's been on the first line for a couple games and seems to be excelling, so those are my leans there. And Boston to win in regulation. I do think they take care of the Ducks rather easily. So that's a wrap for the games. Great 9-game slate spread across the entire evening. Tons of spots to make money on. Don't forget to hit the like button and leave a comment, and I will see you guys back here tomorrow.